This one comes from Jim. I like that name. Good name. Says, "Hey Pops, I thought you might find this this note of interest. Unlike you, I am not a dyslexicist, but I was educated in the South, where upon graduation, I found I was functionally illiterate. Even better, the Army did not help. All manuals I wrote and lesson plans I constructed were directed to a person with an eighth grade education, all written in the third person. I took a class on instructional design and finally realized that the verb was supposed to act as a noun. Amazing. So please disregard my sentence structure or lack thereof and see if you can follow the line of thought.
All right.
We begin. Disclaimer, damn autocorrect. I jumped ahead in my military career to my first assignment in the 2-1 Cavalry, Fort Hood, Texas, 1973. I was sharp. If it moved, I saluted it. I continued this until one day I saluted a CW-4. He at first laughed at me, and then I guess he took pity on me. Young troop, you need help. Come by my maintenance office this afternoon, and I will pass on someday to you some wisdom. He then stepped back and returned to my salute. I arrived at the chief's office around 1500. He invited me in and gave me some of the worst Army coffee I ever tasted. He watched me try to drink it, and when I had about half of it down, he took my cup, poured the crap out, and put some of the coffee from his thermos in my cup.
Nice.
Ambrosia. I give that shit to anyone dumb enough to come here and bother me. Keeps the traffic thinned out. He then started on my education. If a senior officer came to you and asked you to do a project, would you do it or refuse? Well, being a W01 with vast experience that I had gained while working myself up from an E1 to E6, I was not too dumb, just slow. Giving him a look of, hell, I don't know, I said. I'd do what I was ordered to do. He just shook his head. That began my journey to becoming Mr. Regulation.
All right.
Oh man. He started the Aviator's Bible. He started with the Aviator's Bible, AR 95-1, the basic flight regulation. Then he continued to instruct how to deconstruct the regulation so that I understood not only the compliance requirement, but the workaround and gray areas.
Yeah, NCO, the gray area. Yeah.
Yep. After a few days of this, he gave me a list of regulations and the order I was to study them. He would call me once in a while and ask which regulation I was studying, and then propose a scenario. Then he would ask me what page and paragraph covered that situation. I continued with my study, and he continued to call in on occasions until my PCS to Korea in 1977, a great year in the land of sliding doors and slant-eyed whores.
Yeah. It used to be back in the day, man.
Yeah. He continues, I never saw the chief again. I was able to use the regulations education to my and others' benefits on few occasions. While in Korea, I was in a support platoon stationed at Camp Stanton. There were 2 Cav troops and our platoon stationed there. The party animals had planned a big drunk and disorderly party for Friday and Saturday, with Sunday lounging on the concrete beach that lined the helicopter's runway. The 2 ring knocker commanders heard about the plans and decided to screw us over by calling an alert later that Friday night.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no. I was doing a test flight that just happened to occur about 20 minutes before the planned alert. The commanders were going to have all helicopters launch and spend the weekend in the Triple Deuce Valley halfway between Stanton and Camp Casey near the South Korean runway and ADA site marked as 222 on our flight maps. I hovered out and called for takeoff to test the repairs done on the OH-58A.
Kiowa. Yeah, it's a helicopter.
Yep. As I climbed out, I did the mandatory control input tests, as well as so I turned downwind and called for landing. After receiving clearance, I continued contacted the tower and gave a meteorological report of moderate turbulence.
Oh, yeah.
The regulation states, I paraphrase, no aircraft will be allowed to take off or land. Meteorology had determined and confirmed that moderate turbulence had passed.
Nice.
This usually takes 2 to 3 hours. Alert canceled.
Yeah.
Nice.
Party hard was in effect. I was called into the commander's office for an ass chewing. Not being in either of their commands, I went alone. Simply telling my captain commander of the summons, he smiled, shook his head, and mumbled, "You got some balls, chief." I reported in to the highly pissed commanders, and they began to berate me for about 5 minutes. I stood calmly and simply stood at parade rest with my 1,000-yard stare in effect. When they finally calmed down some, they asked me, in essence, what did I base my assessment on, and who the F word did I think I was? I recited the regulation number, page, paragraph, and then received verbatim the text. One of the commanders got out the regulation and to look it up. Damn, he said it word for word.
Fucking hell, that's brilliant.
There's nothing you could do. I love it.
They gave up, and I went to the party. I have other stories of me using regulations to keep me out of trouble and making others do my bidding. If you are interested, yes.
Absolutely love that one.
That is administrative violence, Army edition, right there.
Nice.
Yep,
Nice.
and I believe his actions warrant this.
I had a similar situation. All right, so we're in Iraq. We've been in country about 2 months, and I have one of my platoons that is literally on the road every day doing convoy security up and down the main MSR between Victory and Fallujah. And Fallujah was starting to heat up, so there was a lot of enemy elements out there that were taking pot shots and doing, putting out IEDs and stuff. Now, the rules of engagement, basically, they escalate to the point where you can fire warning shots before you actually start shooting for real. And the battalion commander we had, Fast Eddie, the piece of shit that he was, didn't like that we were using the warning shots. Well, he was safe inside the FOB, which is that's an acronym for Forward Operating Base, while my men are literally out there every day, sometimes 2 times a day, doing all kinds of crazy shit. So he pulls me aside and he's like, "Hey, you're going to have to brief your men that warning shots are no longer on the table." And I'm like, "Sir, have you read the theater rules of engagement?" And, he got all stupid and arrogant and, how dare I question him, blah, blah, blah. Well, when you read the rules of engagement, at the very bottom, it says, no sub-commander can take anything away from the rules of engagement, but can add additional steps if your situation warrants it. I reminded him of this, and he said, "You know what?" And I told him, I'm like, I don't feel comfortable doing that. And so he had one of his JAG officers who was going to give the briefing the next day. Well, that morning I got up, got on the convoy, rolled down the Victory, went to go see the theater commander. Of course, I didn't actually talk to the theater commander. I had talked to one of his, full bird colonel cronies. And I explained to him that there's a lieutenant colonel just up the road who is taking shit off the rules of engagement, and he's not authorized to do that. And he's like, well, what are you talking about? I go, yeah, his name is Fast Eddie. I gave him his number, and then I went and I ate breakfast at the General's Chow Hall, lunch at the General's Chow Hall, dinner at the Chow Hall, and then came back on the evening convoy. And lo and behold, I rolled through the gate, and guess what didn't happen? The rules of engagement briefing, because one of the cronies from the theater fucking commander called him and said, you will not do that. So there you go. It does work.
Hell
It does
yeah.
work. Yeah, and listen, if you're in the military now, you need to understand there's an organization called the Inspector General. Now, at local levels, they're really good at sweeping shit under the rug. If you have a situation where you need to file an IG complaint, and a lot of common ones are simply undue command influence. Like if you have a commander stepping all over your personal life and telling you can't do certain things that have nothing to do with your job, it's called undue command influence. If he's blocking your 4187s, your promotions without being flagged under the regulations, it's undue command influence. You literally fill out a DA 1559, explain exactly what's going on, put the regs in there that, your commander's, playing fast and loose with. Now, if you're enlisted, I would highly advise you, before you drop that IG complaint at the DOD level, you go see your sergeant major and put it on his desk and give him a chance to solve the problem locally. If he can't do anything about it, then go ahead and you file it at the DOD level, and the DOD will push it down the chain to somewhere closer to your command. But the thing is, everyone in the chain above now has visibility on that, so they can't sweep it under the rug. And if you're one of those unlucky sons of bitches that has a trans commander, all it takes is 20% of the command. That's basically the nugs all filing an IG complaint stating they have no confidence in their chain of command, and they're gone. It's just that easy. 10% is a command climate survey where they come in and they ask everyone all kinds of sensitive questions in regards to what's going on. Commanders hate that because it never works out for them. At best, they're going to get a bad or neutral OER, which down the road can severely impact, how far they can suck dick up the ladder. So there you go.
All right.
So hopefully we got some enlisted guys out there or people who are on active duty who are listening and paying attention.
Yes, and if I recall, somebody has a complete webinar on administrative violence, do they not? That being you?
I believe
I
they
do not have the military edition administrative violence yet. I have to bring in a couple other NCOs to assist me with it because it is a huge nut roll to get knocked out.
The civilian version is pretty decent.
Well, yeah. I mean, first of all, the civilian administrative violence, all you're really doing is you're using the clockwork of the huge bureaucracy of the government to fuck with a couple of people that need to get fucked with. And you can literally, like, for instance, you're going through a divorce and she's making all these allegations and ruining your fucking life because you know what? She's got the courts on her side and what have you. Well, you can report her mother for running a daycare center and not paying taxes. You can report her for, DWIs, using drugs. Like, literally, all it takes is to get her tangled up in 2 or 3 other bureaucracies, and the amount of time and effort she has to use against you gets cut radically down. And that's all you're doing. You're just using the internal bureaucracy to, to punish other people just like they use it against you. Nice. It's not illegal. Is it unethical? Yes. But I think I could sleep at night with that one.
Watch Grunt Speak live every Tuesday and Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And if you want to join Pop for Supporter Sundays, go to redonkulous.com/donate and make a monthly pledge. A link is in the meat caser box.